Hi there, I'm Isolde. My parents sent gifts to everyone in the family, except me. And when I opened the empty box they did send, I smiled, like it didn't break something inside me. But that wasn't the start. They left my name off holiday invitations, cropped me out of family photos, told my nephew I didn't belong because I was too different. I stayed quiet, until my art spoke louder than they ever let me. Want to know how far a family will go to erase you, and what happens when you stop apologizing for being seen? The box came 2 days after the snow started sticking. It had that familiar beige tape from my mother's home business, the same script she used to label jam jars and handmade wreaths. For a second I thought, maybe this year was different. I set it on the counter, wiped the snow from my boots, and opened it slowly. Empty. Not just no gift. Nothing. No note, no wrapping paper, not even a Merry Christmas written in her usual curly cursive. I stared at the hollow space inside, my breath catching in my throat. My name was still neatly printed on the shipping label. So it wasn't a mistake, it was intentional. Meanwhile, the group chat was blowing up. Dawson posted a photo of Luca tearing through wrapping paper like a wild animal, his face lit with pure joy. Rochelle bragged about the gourmet basket from Mom and Dad. They nailed it this year. I didn't comment. I just took a picture of the empty box, posted it to my story with one line, smiled in return for the favor. That smile wasn't kindness, it was armor. 2 weeks ago, I made myself a cake. Chocolate, boxed, with a frosting swirl I tried too hard to perfect. I posted a photo of it in the family chat, candles lit, one of those quiet, maybe someone will remember moments. No one did. No likes. No comments. No happy birthday. This morning, Mom posted a picture of Dawson at 5, holding a wooden train. My golden boy, always. Then came a flood of comments. Cousins, aunts, even Dad joined in. I turned off notifications. Back in the kitchen, I placed the empty box next to the trash. I didn't throw it away. Not yet. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because I wanted it to sit there a little longer, just to remind myself that the silence wasn't in my head. People love saying, family is everything. But what they don't say is, some families are skilled at subtraction. They'll chip away at you piece by piece until there's nothing left but your name on a label. And even that feels like a courtesy. I didn't cry. Not this time. I didn't call and ask if it was an accident. I didn't pretend I was too busy to notice. I just stood there, staring at that box like it had spoken. And in a way, it had. I went to make coffee, but instead just stood there. The sound of the heater kicking on broke the quiet. It was almost laughable, how one box could shift something I'd been trying to ignore for years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I ended up digging through a stack of unopened mail I'd tossed on the hallway table. Somewhere near the bottom was the envelope from mid-November, still sealed, with my mom's slanted handwriting on the front. Back then, I hadn't thought much of it. I was busy. School finals, art submissions. One of my students had lost her father. I had told myself, I'll open it later. Now I wished I hadn't. The paper inside was thick, printed, formal, more effort than Velma usually gave anything that didn't involve Dawson. It read, Velma and Clinton, along with Dawson, Rochelle, and Luca, invite you to a family Thanksgiving. Just like that, like I didn't exist. I read it twice, turned it over, checked for a note. Nothing. Not a single mention of me, not even a blank line or a +1. I sat down on the edge of the couch, letter in hand, staring at the same signature I'd seen on my empty box. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered if this was the first time. But it wasn't. Last Thanksgiving, I was there. I brought wine and an apple galette. No one asked me to. I helped set the table. They forgot to make a seat card for me. When Mom said grace, she thanked everyone by name, except mine. At the time, I told myself it was nothing. She was distracted. She didn't mean to. This letter told me otherwise. I picked up my phone, called her. It rang 4 times before she answered. Well, hey, stranger, she said, forced cheerful, like I'd interrupted her mid-laugh. Everything all right? I kept my voice light. Hey, Mom, I got the Thanksgiving invite. Just wanted to check. Was my name supposed to be on it? There was a pause. Not long, just enough. Then came the laugh, tight and sugary. Oh, you know how it is. I mean, of course you're invited. Do we really have to spell everything out these days? I didn't respond. She continued. You know we love having you. It's not like you're not family. It's not like you're not. I let the silence stretch until she changed the subject. Something about a new pie recipe. I mumbled something polite, said I had to go, and ended the call before she could pretend I'd overreacted. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed the empty box still sitting there, and tossed it in the bin. It landed with a hollow thud. Funny how even trash made more of a sound than I did. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I watched the snow melt from the window ledge and wondered if I was being too sensitive, or just finally honest. The group chat kept buzzing. Rochelle shared a picture of her dinner table with a caption about gratitude. Dawson posted Luca's drawing of a turkey, messy and proud. Everyone was laughing in emojis and inside jokes. I stared at the screen and for once decided not to disappear into silence. Glad everyone had a good time, I typed. Thanks for the invite, even if I wasn't technically listed. No one responded in the main thread. 10 minutes later, Dawson messaged me privately. Dawson, Isolde, seriously, don't make this a thing. You were invited, you know that. Let's not turn this into drama, okay? Drama, that's what he called it. I reread his messages twice. My brother, the same one who used to share his Halloween candy with me, who cried when I broke my wrist in 5th grade, now sending me a damage control script like he was handling a customer complaint. I didn't answer him. I didn't need to. The next morning, Dad called. It was early, just past 7. I hadn't even poured my coffee yet. Hey, kid, he said, voice quiet. Your mom told me you were upset about the Thanksgiving invite. I didn't say anything. Let him carry it. She didn't mean anything by it, he continued. You know how she is. She probably just forgot to include your name. It wasn't personal. I bit my cheek. The taste of iron hit my tongue before I could stop myself. She didn't forget Dawson, I said flatly. He sighed, long and tired. Look, this family's already had enough tension the past few years. I just don't want more of it. You know what I mean? No, I didn't. But I knew what he meant. He didn't want confrontation. He didn't want discomfort. He didn't want the truth to stretch across the room and make anyone else squirm. Just let it go, all right? He said. Be the bigger person. I closed my eyes. Sure, I whispered. Bigger person. Got it. We ended the call soon after. He asked me to send my new mailing address again, even though he'd already used it twice that month. After I hung up, I sat on the floor next to my radiator and stared at nothing. They all wanted peace, but only if I kept swallowing what burned going down. They could call it calm. I knew better. That Sunday, the roads were mostly clear, but I drove slower than usual. The cold wasn't on the pavement. It was sitting somewhere between my ribs. I pulled into their driveway just after noon. Lunch was already underway. Velma opened the door with a short nod and a side hug that barely brushed my coat. Rochelle smiled and said, "Glad you made it," with a tone that sounded more like obligation than welcome. Inside, the house smelled like roast and over-scented candles. Luca ran into the room clutching a crayon drawing. "Look, Grandma, I made you a bird." Velma bent down, took it from his hands and beamed. "It's beautiful, baby. I'll put it on the fridge right now." She kissed the top of his head and walked it straight to the kitchen, clipping it in place between a grocery list and a recipe card. I stood there, holding a canvas wrapped in brown craft paper. When she came back, I offered it quietly. "I brought something for the hallway. Thought it might go well with the winter decor." She peeled back the paper slowly. The painting was soft, grays and silvers, a quiet forest under fresh snow. I'd worked on it in silence for weeks, not loud, not political, not too much. She stared for 3 long seconds. "Oh, it's a bit moody for the hallway, don't you think?" She placed it gently on a chair. "Maybe it'd go better in a study or something." She was already walking away when she said it. No one mentioned it again. During dessert, Luca climbed into the chair next to me with a coloring book. His voice was soft. "Aunt Izzy, Grandma said you're different." I looked up from my untouched slice of pie. "What do you mean?" "She said, you don't have a husband because you're hard to understand." He kept coloring. She said some people don't really belong in families when they're like that. My fork clinked against the plate before I realized I'd dropped it. I reached for my glass of water to steady my hands. Luca didn't even look up. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was just repeating. And somehow, that made it worse. By Tuesday evening, the tightness in my chest still hadn't let up. I'd gone back to teaching, grading water-stained still lifes and muted landscapes, but everything felt mechanical, like my hands were moving without me. I curled up on the couch that night with my laptop, hoping to escape into something brainless. Instead, I made the mistake of opening Instagram. The first story I saw was Rochelle's. Plain pink background, white cursive font. It read, "Some people just love being the victim. No tags, no names." But no one needed names. The next slide was Luca's drawing, his little bird sketch, captioned, "Art that actually brightens the room." My stomach dropped, not because it was clever, but because it was calculated. I stared at it for a long moment before tapping into her messages. Me. "Was that supposed to be about me?" The reply came quick. "Rochelle. If the shoe fits, you've always made everything about you. We're tired." There it was. Not even masked. Just venom in lowercase. I held the phone in my palm, heartbeat sinking to the screen's light. Then I typed back slowly, every word deliberate. "Me. Next time you say my name, say it directly. Because if this keeps going, I won't stay quiet anymore. And I won't be polite." She didn't answer. I took a screenshot, then saved it to a locked folder on my drive. I didn't post it. Not yet. That message wasn't for public consumption. It was a line. Drawn clearly, finally. I wasn't going to pretend to misunderstand her anymore. I wasn't going to make it easy for them to wound me in silence and call it love. They wanted peace on their terms. But peace doesn't come with cruelty buried beneath politeness. So I sharpened my voice. Not for shouting, but for clarity. The next morning I woke early, too early for a Saturday, with something buzzing under my skin. I didn't open my emails. I didn't check the group chat. Instead, I brewed coffee, walked into my studio, and stared at the canvas I'd started weeks ago, but never finished. It was quiet, cold, and honest. A dining room table, long and heavy. Figures seated but faceless, just silhouettes of hands passing plates. At the end, one chair pulled far away, like it had been dragged backwards mid-meal. The shadows didn't reach that far. That spot was in the dark. I finished it in a single sitting. By late afternoon, I took a photo, cropped tight, posted it on Instagram with one caption, "For anyone who's ever smiled through silence. No hashtags, no names, just truth." By midnight, the post had hundreds of shares. The next day, it doubled. Someone with a large following, an advocate for trauma recovery, reposted it, writing, "This one hit me in the chest." Comments poured in. "This feels like my Christmas is growing up. My mother always saved the worst seat for me too. I've never seen something explain it this well." I didn't respond to any of them. I just watched. Then quietly, Rochelle's name started showing up in the comments. Only not in praise. People asked questions. Is this based on real family dynamics? Wait, isn't her sister the one who posted this? Someone tagged Rochelle's business page. By Tuesday, her online store had paused its updates. I checked out of curiosity and saw several posts had their comments turned off. One story was deleted entirely. Then came the group chat messages. Dawson dropped a vague, "Let's be kind this week" post. Rochelle posted a quote about grace and growth, always the fallback for people caught out. Later that night, a private message from Rochelle. "Take it down. This is affecting my work." I read it. I didn't type anything back. Instead, I went back into my studio, pulled out another blank canvas, and started a new piece. A woman, back to the viewer, standing in front of a wall made of shattered mirrors. Each one reflected something different. None of them looked like her. This one would speak for itself, too. They wanted silence. But now, the silence had a face, and it wasn't mine. I had just finished wiping the last streak of varnish across the new canvas when my phone buzzed with a notification from Facebook. I wasn't tagged, of course not, but I recognized the caption instantly. "So thankful for this beautiful family." Red heart emoji, no mention of names, just the photo. I clicked. It was taken in Velma's living room, Holiday decor perfectly curated, matching outfits in burgundy and navy, candles flickering in the background. Dawson, Rochelle, Luca, Clinton, even two cousins I hadn't seen in years, but not me. At first, I thought maybe I hadn't been there that day. Maybe it was a gathering I wasn't invited to, which would have been predictable at this point. But then I noticed something familiar. The vase on the table. The one I'd brought last year. The painting in the background. That was my work, framed and given as a Christmas peace offering. This wasn't a new photo. It was the same group shot from last year's dinner. The one where I'd stood between Dawson and Rochelle, holding a tray of cookies. Only this time, I wasn't in it. They had cropped me out. Cleanly, like I was a smudge. My breath caught in my throat. Not in sadness, in something colder. I opened my photo library and scrolled until I found the original. There I was, smiling in a too-tight sweater, trying, again, to look like I belonged. I uploaded both pictures, side by side, no filters, no edits. Caption: sometimes being erased tells you more than any words ever could. Within minutes, messages started appearing. Not from family, from old college friends, former co-workers, a parent of one of my students. Wait, they really cut you out? This is beyond passive-aggressive. I'm so sorry, that's disgusting. Someone DM'd me. I had no idea your family was like this. That's not okay. I didn't reply. Not out of pride, out of preservation. An hour later, my cousin Alina commented on Velma's post. Where's Isolde? No one answered her. 2 hours after that, Velma deleted the entire post. By nightfall, Rochelle posted a Bible verse about grace again, her favorite PR stunt. Dawson went silent. Clinton, as always, stayed out of sight. And I poured tea, took off my earrings, sat back in the quiet. Let them explain me away this time. The morning after Velma's post vanished, I woke up to my name pinned to someone else's truth. I was sipping coffee, black, no sugar, scrolling through my feed when I saw it. A comment under a reshared screenshot of the family photo. It wasn't from a stranger, though it might as well have been. It was from someone I hadn't spoken to since my first gallery show, Sandra, from the local art council. Erasing your daughter from the photo doesn't erase what she means to people. That was it. No hashtags, no fanfare, but it spread like wildfire, the kind you don't see coming until it's licking at the base of your front door. Other people chimed in, former students, a few old neighbors. One even said, I always thought there was something weird about how they treated you. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate either. I just sat on my couch, laptop warm on my thighs, and watched the tide shift. Not because I asked for it, but because someone else refused to look away. The town's Facebook groups, usually reserved for lost pets and snow shoveling requests, lit up with opinions. Some defended Velma. That's still her mom, show some respect. But most didn't. By afternoon, the phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. That evening, I walked to the mailbox barefoot, the kind of careless that happens only when your blood has settled into steel. Inside was a plain white envelope, no return address, but I knew the handwriting instantly. Velma's. I took it upstairs. Didn't open it right away. Let it sit on my counter while I made tea, swept the kitchen, watered my succulents. Only after the kettle whistled and cooled did I tear it open. The letter was neat, blue ink on ivory paper. I was wrong. I thought protecting my image mattered more than protecting you. I see now it cost me something I may never get back. There were more words, some that almost felt real, others that sounded like guilt dressed up in Sunday manners. I folded the letter, slid it into the back of my desk drawer. I didn't throw it out, but I didn't answer it either. Christmas morning, I sat alone in my studio, finishing the piece I'd started a week earlier. A dining table, long, simple, empty except for one chair, one plate, one hand, mine, reaching across to place a card that read, "Welcome me." I took a photo and posted it with the caption, "Sometimes you build your own table, and that's enough." I turned off notifications, not out of fear, out of finality. Let them scroll, let them stew. I didn't need their seats anymore. Between Christmas and New Year's, the days blurred, quiet, slow, kind. There was no grand gesture, no surprise visit at my door. Just peace, That was new. I'd signed the lease for a small art studio 2 blocks from my apartment. It smelled like sawdust and possibility. The walls were still bare, the windows tall and unfiltered. I hadn't even hung curtains yet. I didn't want to. I was preparing materials for my first workshop, set to start after the new year. 20 students had signed up, more than I expected. Some familiar names, some I didn't recognize. Then, one email caught my eye. Subject, Luca. He's been asking to learn from you. No pressure. Just thought you should know. Rochelle. That was all. No apology, no follow-up. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. On the back wall of the studio, I'd already hung a version of the painting that changed everything. The dinner table with the empty chair. But in this one, I'd painted that chair in soft gold, and above it, added a small sign. For those who tried, and those still learning how. The day of the first class, I arrived early, organized the brushes, laid out name tags. At exactly 10:03, Luca walked in, holding a sketchbook against his chest like it was a secret. He didn't say much, just nodded at me, then found a seat near the window. 15 minutes into warm-ups, he raised his hand. "Can I show you something?" he asked. I nodded. He flipped his notebook around. A table, not like mine. This one had 5 chairs, each one labeled Mom, Dad, Luca, Grandma, Aunt Isolde. There wasn't a dramatic moment. No swelling music, no long hug, just that drawing, and his small crooked smile. I smiled back. Not to perform, not to prove anything, but because it was mine. Later that evening, I returned home, brewed tea, and sat by the window with my feet tucked under me. I didn't open the drawer with Velma's letter, but I didn't dread it being there either. Some closures don't need noise, just breath. And as the year turned over, I thought about the gifts. They sent them to everyone but me. So I built something that didn't come in boxes or wrapping, something unshakable. This was the favor I smiled for. I used to think family meant unconditional love, that no matter how flawed it was still home. But I've learned something else. Sometimes, home isn't a place you're invited into. It's something you build, brick by brick, when no one else saves you a seat. They gave gifts to everyone but me, and in return, I gave myself something far better: self-worth. If you've ever felt invisible in your own story, if you've ever sat through holidays pretending nothing stung, I want you to hear this. You don't have to keep showing up for people who keep leaving you out. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You are not wrong for wanting peace that doesn't cost your dignity. Some of us were born into families. Others, we create our own, through truth, through art, through boundaries. Now I'm curious. Have you ever felt erased or excluded by people who were supposed to love you the most? If so, what helped you reclaim your place in your own life? Drop a comment below. Let me know if this story spoke to you. If it did, type 1, or tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if it didn't hit home for you, tell me why. I'd still love to hear your story. And if you believe stories like this deserve a place in the world, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps these voices keep speaking. Until next time, stay strong, stay seen, stay you.